Well, hi everyone, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today we're celebrating the birthday of Miles Davis. Now, Miles Davis was many things. He was born in 1926, died in the very early 1990s, and in that life, he changed music several times. Don't believe me? Believe the man himself, because allegedly he was at a White House dinner in the 80s with Nancy Reagan, and he told her just that after he didn't like something that she told him. Who knows if it's true? Quite amusing if it is. But Miles Davis really did represent perpetual innovation. And there's a strong argument that can be made that perpetual innovation really is what music is all about. He never stood still, never got comfortable within a single genre or subgenre of music. Classed as a jazz musician because that's how he entered music. He was a true virtuoso from day one. He was classically trained. He knew music inside and out, but never once rested on his laurels. And for me and for you, that means we get to choose which era of Miles's long and illustrious career we like the best. For me, I like his late 60s and early 70s era. The era when he was producing music that was one part free, one part sort of proto jam band, and one part funky as hell, with rock elements in there too, genuine fusion. And the two albums that really stick out for me in this respect are Jack Johnson and On the Corner, which were the two successive albums that were recorded in the early 70s, with Jack Johnson being recorded in 1970, being released the following year, and On the Corner came out in 1972. Now, the names that were on these albums, it just blows your mind. Looking just at Jack Johnson, you've got Billy Cobham on the drums, Herbie Hancock on the keyboards, John McLaughlin on the guitar, Bernie Maupin, wonderful musician on bass clarinet, Chick Corea on piano, Dave Holland on bass, Jack DeJohnette on drums. The list goes on. So many interesting people on both of these albums. And again, most of the same people that played on one played on the other. And what's so special about these albums is that it was Miles at his most authentic. There was, of course, the Miles in the suit or the bow tie playing bebop and then modal jazz and then sort of experimental types of jazz as we go on into the 60s. But it was really in the late 60s and early 70s when Miles said that he was frustrated with the fact that the music marketed as jazz was becoming increasingly disconnected from the people that he wanted to hear his music, particularly young Black Americans. And he wanted to make music that spoke to them. He was very inspired by Hendrix as a Black musician that crossed over and was listened to by both Black and white audiences. And he was determined to make albums in his very unique way that had that same crossover appeal. Now, Jack Johnson is also special because it's a biographical album about one of the best boxers of all time, Jack Johnson. And he was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. The adversity that he faced from law enforcement, from people within the boxing promoting world, within society itself, was a story that inspired millions. And Miles was, of course, one of the people deeply moved by that story and wrote a 99.9% instrumental concept album, apart from a bit of narration at the end, which explains why he made the album. He made that as a tribute to Jack Johnson, a album that draws from many cultures of music and many backgrounds of musicians in terms of their style and in terms of their personal background. And you can really hear that, I hate this word, but I'm going to have to say it, cornucopia of ideas that's so free and so improvisational, and yet the final product is so very cohesive. A similar attitude was taken when it comes to On the Corner, which was written as a kind of tribute to the chaotic but very communal street life of the 1970s in a big city like New York in particular. And when you listen to these albums back to back, you really see Miles at his most musically happy, in my view. He was doing what he wanted with the people he wanted to do it with, and doing it aimed at the audiences that he wanted to reach. And to me, you don't get better than that. On the Corner was the final album before he went into a temporary sort of retirement and repose. But by the end of the 70s, he came back, introducing a new sound for the 80s that was still very much electric, still very much improvisation based, but based on sort of the tight grooves and the stripped down drums of the electro-funk era that was in full swing. And his very final album was, of course, in the 90s, Doo-Bop, which was a jazz hip hop fusion. If Miles had lived even 10 years longer, who knows what his next innovation would have been. But I do think that it's fairly safe to say that he would have never stopped, because if music is all about growth, exploration, innovation, curiosity, that was in a man, Miles Davis. Truly a trailblazer across multiple genres, loved across multiple genres, loved across the world. Should have lived longer, should have had even more laurels than he did, but the legacy is there and it will be loved and grooved to forever. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.